Hello, peeps, and welcome to another Power Packed Phillips podcast. Just a friendly reminder, don't forget, your 10-question packet is due next Tuesday. You do not have any homework from the workbook. You may take your packet home to work on it if you are not finished. Also, second MSA. Remember, you need to start bringing graph paper to class. We're going to be using graph paper in chapter 4 and 5. Be bringing in your graph paper, peeps. Alrighty, today's notes are on lesson 4.2, Graphing Linear Equations, part 2. We started the other day. We're going to continue on it today, so please write that down in your notes. Alright, we are going to talk about a new vocabulary word today. Something called standard form. Standard form. So if you would, in your spiral, I am going to ask you to draw 4 boxes with a circle in the middle. Now, you don't have to draw this full size on your entire piece of paper. Why don't you draw it on half a piece of paper? That way we're not wasting paper and killing trees. So if you would, draw yourself 4 boxes and put a circle in the middle. You're going to write definition up here in the top left box, facts, characteristics in the top right hand box, examples bottom left. In the circle, you're going to write the word word. In the bottom right hand corner, you're going to write non-examples. You can go ahead and pause this podcast, draw it on a piece of paper. Do not make it the full size, the entire piece of paper. Just draw it on about half of your paper. And then we'll pick up in just a second. TY. In the middle, we're going to write our vocabulary word. So if you would, please write standard form. Please write standard form. And in the bottom right hand corner, if you would, write yourself an example. I would like you to write ax plus by equals c. Please write ax plus by equals c. Underneath that, I would like you to write negative 2x plus y equals negative 3. Please write negative 2x plus y equals negative 3. Now, this is what we mean when we say standard form. Standard form, underneath your facts and characteristics box, you can write the x and y are on the same side of the equation. Standard form, please write the x and y are on the same side of the equation. This is what I mean. If you look down here in this equation, the x and y are on the same side of the equation. They're over here on the left. Or they could be over here on the right, but as long as the x and y are on the same side, we call that standard form. Now you say, Mr. Phillips, what in the world do they mean by A and B here? Good question. Here's your answer. A and B are going to represent the coefficients. So your coefficient here is negative 2. A simply refers to the number touching the letter x. But Mr. Phillips, there isn't a number touching the y. Oh, some of you figured it out. There is an imaginary 1 right here. So in this case, B would be 1, or the coefficient touching y. C is simply the number, the constant, all by itself. BTW, got a new tornado picture for you. Sweet. Notice that y is a tornado. Alright, over here underneath non-examples, if you would copy y equals 3x plus 4. Notice that the y is all by itself. So this is a non-example. This is not standard form here. This is not standard form. And remember, the reason why it's not standard form is that the y and the x are not on the same side. Okay? And the definition in your own words. You can make up your own definition. My definition in my own words is standard form. It's one way to write an equation, but it's not the only way to write the equation. One way to write an equation, but not the only way. All right, so from time to time when we come across new definitions, from now on, we will be writing down the definitions, examples, non-examples, facts, characteristics, and a definition in own words like this. Maybe it'll make it easier for some of you. All right, so here we go. Standard form. Graph the equation. Notice that my x and my y are on the same side. Since they're on the same side, this equation is in standard form. That's what we just talked about with our vocabulary word. All right, on your paper, please write the equation negative 2x plus y equals negative 3. They're asking us to graph the equation. Before we can graph the equation, we have to rewrite the equation with the variable y by itself. Okay? So again, they gave it to us in standard form. It's in standard form. We're going to have to rewrite the equation so we get the tornado all by itself. So, visual people, you may want to draw that tornado on top of the y. So here we go. I am going to have to get that negative 2x to the safe zone. I'm going to bring the negative 2x across. When I bring the negative 2x across, I'm leaving the district. I do the opposite. The opposite of subtracting is adding. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. These will cancel. I'm left with the variable y. Notice, be careful, don't epic fail. Before you do anything, ask yourself, can I put those terms together? Well, let's see. Dog, allergic to dogs. They don't have a variable. Achoo! Excuse you. Bless you. You cannot put these together. They are not like terms. So my peeps that are really struggling with that, before you go crazy and work the rest of the problem, always ask yourself, can I put these together? Are they like terms? In this case, no, they are not. So I'm just going to put the plus 2x over here. So my final answer would be y equals negative 3 plus 2x. Notice this is not standard form. My y and my x are not on the same side. They started on the same side. They started on the same side, but we changed the equation around so they are not in standard form anymore. My little note, when you write the equation like this, with the y, the tornado all by itself, it is a lot easier to graph. Trust you me. BRB. All right, now we are going to pick 3 numbers to substitute in for the variable x. You can pick whatever numbers you want, unless they tell you the numbers to use for the domain. But Mr. Phillips, in the last podcast, we picked the numbers they gave us. Yes. Sometimes they will give you an equation or function, and they'll say, with a domain, negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, and 2. In this problem, they gave me the numbers to use for a domain, so I would use negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, and 2 for x. They gave me the numbers. That's what you use. Notice they did not give me the numbers here, so you're free to use whatever you want. Think of it this way. If you get a problem like this where they give you the numbers, that's mom or dad saying, hey, you need to bake the chocolate cake. Here's the ingredients for the chocolate cake. Use these ingredients. Up here, mom and dad just said, hey, I want you to bake a cake. We got some friends coming over. Well, what kind of cake do you want me to bake? Whatever you want. Surprise me. So this is like the cake that you pick. Bake whatever you want. They didn't tell you to use specific ingredients. Here, you had to use these specific ingredients. So, these are touching each other. I know in math that when they're touching each other, that means to multiply. Remember, this is the equation we rewrote from the last slide. So, I can pick any three numbers I want. Be honest with you, the easiest numbers to work with are low, small numbers. So whenever you can pick any three numbers, okay, pick whatever you want. But if you pick 50, 75, 100, have fun, because it's going to take you longer. I pick the smallest numbers I can. So I chose 0, 1, and 2. Do you have to pick those numbers? No, but the smaller the numbers you pick, the easier it is to do. Alrighty, please copy this on your paper and let me walk you through what I did. I picked any three numbers I wanted. I picked 0, 1, and 2. I took x out. I put in 0. Substitute. Now I follow order of operations. 2 times 0 is 0. Copy the rest of the problem. A negative 3 plus 0 equals negative 3. So I write my answer, negative 3, over here underneath the y. Alrighty, please copy this on your paper. I'll walk you through it. Next, I pick the next number, which is 1. I substitute it in for x. Take out the x, put in a 1. Follow the order of operations. 2 times 1 is 2. Copy the rest of the problem. So now I have negative 3 plus 2. Negative 3 plus 2 gives me negative 1. I take my answer. I write it over here in my chart underneath y. Alright guys, copy this on your paper. I took 2. I substitute 2 in for x. Take out the x, put in 2. Order of operations, 2 times 2 is 4. Negative 3 plus 4 is 1 or positive 1. So over here, I wrote positive 1 or 1. Alright, in our next podcast, we are going to graph it. Thanks for watching. Biggest thing for you to remember is when you have the x and y on the same side, that's called standard form. If you're asked to graph it, you want to take that standard form, you want to take that y, take that tornado, get it all by itself. When you get that tornado all by itself, your life is going to be so much easier. Bye guys.